Pressure begins to mount on GIPC board chairman to also step down after resigned CEO contradicted his claim that he returned a 20,000 cedis check issued for his birthday.
The GIPC donated a check for 20,000 cedis, but the check was returned on my instruction back to the GIPC. So the GIPC did not give me a check, which I accepted and spent. So the actual money that was spent out of the budget was less than 50% of the amount.
It wasn't the entire 20,000 that was returned. It was a balance of it.
Yeah, almost 11,000 was returned.
Tonight we examine the corporate governance and propriety issues arising from the raging scandal.
This is Top Story with Evans Mensah.
Top Story is brought to you by Bond Financial Services, your success, our passion, Belaka Mineral Water, the new generation mineral water, as well as myjoyonline.com. Tonight we are live from the multi-TV studios here, also on Joy 99.7 FM. It has already claimed one casualty, and it is now threatening to claim another. I'm talking about the raging Ghana Investment Promotion Center questionable payment scandal. First to go was a Chief Executive Officer, George Abuaji, who resigned yesterday. Now, emerging new details has led to calls for the immediate resignation of the board chairman of the GIPC, Ishmael Yamsing. Now, Mr. Yamsing had earlier claimed that he had ordered the immediate return of a 20,000 cedis check issued for the center's by the center's management for his birthday. Well, today the resigned chief executive of the center contradicted that position, disclosing that almost half of the birthday cash was indeed spent on Mr. Yamsing's birthday. Now, this is what Mr. Yamsing told the Super Morning Show on Tuesday. Take a listen.
I think it's nonsense, and at the appropriate time, I'll take action. It is not true that the GIPC gave me a check for 3,000, which I accepted and spent on my birthday party. First of all, my birthday party was organized by my children. It wasn't organized by me. It is true that the GIPC donated a check for 20,000 cedis, but the check was returned on my instruction back to the GIPC. So the GIPC did not give me a check, which I accepted and spent. I mean, I have very high principles. And I said to my children, if you can't afford it, I will spend the money myself. So what I'm telling you is that the story is not true. The truth of the story is that the check was returned to the GIPC, and this can be verified from the GIPC.
But today, a totally different story emerged with the resigned CEO of the center, George Abuaji, disclosing that almost half of the money was indeed spent on drinks for Mr. Yamsing's birthday. Take a listen.
It was a management decision to support his it was a decision to support the birthday party. We said we'll buy the drinks. And so when we bought the drinks, almost 11,000 was excess, and he returned the money, and we gave him a receipt. So he has a receipt that he has returned the balance, and then we took the receipt for the drinks that they bought, and those ones are also with us. So the actual money that was spent out of the budget was less than 50% of the amount.
It wasn't the entire 20,000 that was returned. It was a balance of it.
Yeah, almost 11,000 was returned.
At the end of the day, the GIPC spent about 9,000 cedis on the board chairperson's birthday party. Am I right? Well,
it's a five-star hotel where it was held at La Palme, and so obviously, and there were many dignitaries that were coming, and this was the support that we gave him.
A few questions. So, who spent the 9,000 cedis on the drinks? If Mr. Yamsing's claim that a check was returned without it being spent is true, and if he indeed gave that instruction, did he actually follow up to ensure that a check was returned wholly? And we are told that a receipt was issued for the balance that was returned. So in whose possession is this receipt? Well, there are more questions than answers, but with the original story of the issuance of a 4,000 CD check to the NDC campaign group still lurking in the background, some are now demanding the resignation of the board chairman. The Progressive People's Party's National Executive Committee member, Ladi Nyalanda, is one of them.
He said the man has resigned as a matter of principle, although no funds were lost. Now, I don't understand. What does it mean by although no funds were lost? If the man has resigned as a matter of principle, then he has resigned as a matter of principle. Stop it there, right there, period. But if you say although no funds were lost, are you trying to tell us that if funds had not been lost, or if funds had been lost, then it would have been justification for him to go? I mean, it doesn't, to me, it doesn't, it's either one or two. It cannot be both. If the man, we're talking on the basis of principle. The principle is that it shouldn't have been done, whether funds were lost or not. So I don't understand the red herring of although no funds were lost. I think that Aisha should withdraw that letter and say, one, that the man has resigned upon a principle, or if he wants to stick to it, then he should resign. Because I, for once, I will not have any confidence in GIPC when the chairman himself is saying making that kind of statement.
And we'll be joined shortly by the Executive Director of the anti-graft body, the Ghana Integrity Initiative, Vitus Azim, on this particular subject, examine the issues of propriety. Also be joined by a corporate governance and indeed an investment lawyer who will be telling us, looking at the issues of corporate governance that indeed some say might be subject to explore as far as this particular issue is concerned. We'll be examining those details here on Top Story shortly. We are joined by Vitus Azim. Also we'll be joined by Joe Abaju-Debra, a corporate investment lawyer, to examine the key issues involved in this particular developing story, all here on Top Story. My name is Evans Mensah. You want to stay with us because those interviews will be coming your way shortly. My producers are working working the lines to see if we can get them on the line. We will be examining the issues. Of course, as the story progresses, we've heard the statement from the president's own campaign team asking the group to return the money. We also understand that some investigations have been ordered and is ongoing internally. The question is whether, now that we are hearing of contradictory statements coming from the resigned chief executive and also the chairman of the board, is it proper to allow the GIPC to conduct its own internal investigations? Is it time to look external for that particular investigations to come off? We will be asking those questions and then get some answers on that when we return shortly. And you're still live here on Top Story. Indeed, we had planned to speak to Vitus Azim, who is the Executive Director of the anti-graft body, the Ghana Integrity Initiative. Also, Joe Abaju-Debra, who's a corporate investment lawyer. I'm told that we're having some technical difficulties with our line internally, and it's been resolved. So we are able to bring you those interviews on the back of the key issues. I'm told now it's been resolved, and I might have on the line right now Joe Abaju-Debra. Thank you, sir, for your time. Can you hear me, sir? Hello, sir. Hello? Can you hear me? Hello, Mr. Abaju. Can you hear me, sir?
Yes, I can.
Great. I'm wondering if there are any legitimate corporate governance issues, as far as this GIPC scandal is concerned, that anybody should be worried about.
Well, they are. I mean, I believe that there are a lot of issues that should bring some concern to everyone. And I'm also glad for the fact that it's coming up at this time, because these are issues that frequently occur in corporate Ghana. And I think that's an opportunity for us to try and find some way of resolving some of these issues. So, of course, they throw up issues of concern. You would agree that most entities have corporate social responsibility programs for which they draw up their budgets. And of course, we cannot dispute too much about which areas some corporate entities would want to be involved in. But this is peculiar because you are dealing with a public institution. So apart from the corporate governance issues also, the fact that this is a public institution also throws up a few other issues.
I'm wondering, though, what for you are the key issues of corporate governance in this unfolding scandal?
Well, the issue is this. If, for example, if you look at the chief executive, if the chief executive acted within defined principles that have been laid by the board, then although at large it may be wrong, if he's acting within that spectrum, then it's very difficult to say that he had acted outside of his authority. But if you look at the situation of a government or a youth group that is supporting the government, and the fact that this is also a public institution, and then these public funds were directed at this institution, then you have major issues to deal with, coupled with the fact that the institution also granted some award of some sort to the chairman of the board itself. So those are the worrying scenarios. But it may also be issues that may be emanating out of the boardroom itself. What has the board itself decided in these areas? And what principles do they use to guide themselves in dealing with these matters? Those are the things that we do not know yet. But from an outsider's perspective, it's very difficult to situate these things within proper corporate governance principles.
In addition to that 4,000 check that was issued, but we are told now was not actually cashed to the campaign group, we've also been talking about the 20,000 that again was issued for the board chairman's own birthday. He says he returned the check wholly. We are now being told by the resigned chief executive that almost half of that money was indeed spent on drinks for his birthday. We've heard some say, well, it's time, if the chief executive has resigned, maybe it's also time for the board chairman also to go. Is that a position that you ascribe to?
Ivan, please don't set a trap for me, but let me try and state this. I was pleasantly surprised when I heard that the CEO had resigned, because it is not the culture here. And I commend him for that. I heard him also on your network this morning, and I believe that he spoke very well. What I would say is that, on principle, if the CEO had to go on this matter, I think that the chairman also on principle has to go, because, policy levels are presided over by the chairman. And for the fact that the check or the 20,000 was accepted, and also for the fact that at the board level, a decision was taken that these monies could be paid at all to the chairman. I know that companies or at board level, they have certain miscellaneous budgets where they use for these kind of activities. But if the CEO finds it necessary to resign in the circumstances, and especially when there are conflicting statements coming from the two top officials involved in this, I do think that the principal thing for Mr. Yamson to do is to resign.
Thank you very much. That's Joe Abaji-Deborah. He is corporate and investment lawyer. Helping us understand some of the key corporate governance issues in there. But you want to stay with us on Newsnight in 15 minutes. We'll be dealing with other angles coming out of this, arising from this particular scandal. Also, we'll be telling you about a certain conspiracy that the NPP is putting out today about a certain plot to rig the elections on December 7, and they are meeting, they say, some security chiefs on their complaints. You want to stay with us in 15 minutes as we explore those other issues. But starting right now is Reporter's Angle. Top stories brought to you by Bond Financial Services, your success, our passion, Belacra Mineral Water, the new generation mineral water, as well as myjoyonline.com. My name is Evan Smith.